guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, I'm Antoinette, a New Zealander living in Germany. And this video today is going to be a story time video about the time that my husband Rob was backpacking around New Zealand for a year back in 2009. If you haven't already heard the story about how we met in New Zealand, I've got a whole video on this, I will link it below. So anyway, to cut a long story short, Rob decided to have a year off in 2009 and travel around New Zealand with friends and work a little bit and just sightsee and just have fun with his friends. And during that year he got into quite a few embarrassing situations due to maybe cultural clashes and just being young and naive, I guess. So I'm going to share some of these stories. He's given me permission to share the stories. Okay, so the first embarrassing story actually happened before Rob and I even met. This was within the first 2 months of Rob arriving in New Zealand. So Rob was traveling around the North Island with his friends Yannick and Stefan. They were all in their early 20s at the time. And so one of the first things they did when they arrived in New Zealand was buy cars. And they didn't want to buy flash cars, obviously, because it was only for a year. And so they bought these old, like, I can't even remember what kind of cars they were, but they were pretty like beaten up cars. I think they paid like 900 New Zealand dollars for the cars, and Stefan actually bought like a van that he could sleep in, so I remember that van. So anyway, the guys actually used their cars not only to travel around the North Island but to sleep in. Sometimes they'd be sleeping at hostels, sometimes they would be like sleeping in their cars. So in the morning when Rob was sleeping in his car, the sun was super bright and blinding and used to wake them all up. So they came up with this idea to use black rubbish bags and tape them on their windows to stop the sun from coming in. This was kind of a good idea, but Rob and his friends sometimes would forget to take the rubbish bags off their windows when they were driving around. So one day when the guys were traveling through the North Island after sleeping in their cars, still with the black rubbish bags taped to their windows, Rob heard sirens behind him. He looked behind and he realized that he was being followed by the police. So he pulled over and he got out of the car and the police came running over. He was like searching him high and low. There was another police in the back and he was searching the car. Both of the policemen were looking like super frantic and Rob was so confused. He didn't know what the hell was going on. Rob's heart was pounding. He had absolutely no idea what he had done wrong. He was so confused and he asked the police, you know, what have I done wrong? And then the policeman clicked that, you know, he had made a mistake. He said to Rob, okay, there's 2 reasons why we have pulled you over. One of them is because of what you were wearing. You are wearing a red hoodie. This is the uniform for the Mungle Mob. For those of you who haven't heard of the Mungle Mob, they are actually a gang in New Zealand. They're a pretty notorious gang, and Rob looked like a Mungle Mob member from far away to the police. If you're a New Zealander, you know that you should never wear a red hoodie because this resembles the Mungle Mob uniform. And obviously Rob didn't know that, and so they thought he was a gang member. Not only did he look suspicious because of what he was wearing, it's because he had all of the windows of his car blacked out. So how suspicious would that have looked? I think the police soon clicked that it was a big misunderstanding, that Rob was a backpacker. The police said to him, mate, don't wear a red hoodie, don't black out your windows if you don't want to be pulled over again because you looked really suspicious. And then he let Rob go. So that was kind of hilarious. Like, we were cracking up about that the other day. Okay, so the next embarrassing story is kind of cute, kind of funny, pretty embarrassing for Rob. This was the time that he cooked for me not long after we met. Okay, so this happened maybe 3 weeks after we met. We were just starting to get to know each other. We'd been on a couple of dates, we really liked each other, and it's that new kind of exciting stage of, you know, meeting somebody and finding out about them. So I remember asking Rob about like his hobbies and what he was into, and he told me that he really loved to cook and that he was pretty good at it. And I was like, wow, a guy that likes to cook. And I remember kind of joking around and saying, maybe you can cook for me sometime. And he said, okay. So at the time he was living and working on a horse ranch and he didn't have access to a kitchen where he could cook for me. So he said to me one day, do you mind if I borrow your kitchen for an hour? Because I really want to cook for you. And I said, okay, why not? I was really interested to see, you know, if he was a good cook, and I thought it was really sweet that he wanted to cook for me. So I remember he went off to the supermarket and he came back with a bag of ingredients for his meal, and I went off for a little while and he cooked me this meal. And so when I got back, he'd set up the table, and I think there was even candles. It was so romantic, and the meal that he cooked just looked so good. So he cooked a dish with paprika, red pepper, and I remember at the time red peppers were so expensive. He would have paid like $12 for 2 red peppers. Crazy prices in New Zealand sometimes. So they were baked peppers stuffed with rice and ground beef and onion, and then there was like a tomato sauce on top, and they just looked so delicious. So I took one mouthful expecting it to taste amazing, and then I just spat it out. It was the most disgusting thing I had ever tried in my life. I couldn't help it. It was like my automatic reflex. It was so disgusting. It tasted so weird, and he just looked mortified. He was like, oh my gosh, what's going on? He was trying so hard to impress me, and then I like spit out his cooking, and then he took a mouthful and he spat it out too. He was like, oh my gosh, I think I've done something wrong here. And I was like, what did you use for the sauce? And he grabbed the can of what he used, and it said tomato sauce. And tomato sauce in New Zealand is actually ketchup, so it's the equivalent of ketchup, but it's way sweeter than ketchup. So tomato sauce in Germany is like a savory pureed tomato, 100% pure tomato. It has more of a savory taste, and that's what Rob thought he was using for the sauce, but instead he was using basically ketchup, sweet ketchup. Imagine how that would have tasted. I took a huge mouthful and it was just pure sweet ketchup. The whole meal was wasted because he had poured this tomato sauce ketchup over the entire meal, and we were just hysterically laughing. It was absolutely hilarious. Rob was so shocked at the beginning, and then he saw that I was laughing, and then he started laughing, and then we were just laughing the whole night about it. And I think we went and got McDonald's or something like that. So this is a lesson for all of you Germans coming to New Zealand. If you see a can labeled tomato sauce, it is not tomato puree, it is ketchup. So please don't make that same mistake that Rob did. So guys, the last embarrassing story happened not long after Rob and I sort of became a couple. I was living at home with my mum during that time because I was studying, and Rob would come to our place quite regularly for dinner. And at that time, Rob's English was definitely not at the level that it is now. I guess you could say he spoke school English, so it was a little bit broken, very basic, and he made quite a lot of mistakes. I thought his English was really cute, and it did rapidly improve the longer we were together. And I'll always remember one night he came for dinner, and my mum had cooked this amazing roast dinner. It was roast lamb, and she'd gone to so much effort, and it was absolutely delicious. And I remember mum saying, oh, I hope you enjoyed it. And in his very blunt German way, he said, thank you, it was quite good. And I remember mum and I looking at each other, and we were like, oh. And he just like carried on eating, finishing up his meal. So in New Zealand, if you tell somebody that their cooking was quite good, it is like an insult. It basically means that their meal was mediocre, and you know, it was, you know, just okay, very average. And then later that evening I said to Rob, oh, you didn't really enjoy that meal, did you? And he was like, yes I did, it was quite good. And I was like, okay. And then I noticed a pattern. Every time he came to dinner, he would say to mum, that was quite good. And so I just thought that he didn't really like mum's cooking, and mum probably thought that too. I'm not sure what mum thought. But I remember one night he came for dinner at my auntie's place, and she cooked this incredible Lebanese meal, and it was so delicious, and he said the same thing to her, thank you, it was quite good. I was kind of confused because it looked like he was really enjoying the meals, and then he was telling everybody that their cooking was quite good. And then I said to him later, Rob, when you tell people that their cooking is quite good, do you know that it means it is mediocre, like it's not really that good? He was like, what? And then he was like, Scheiße, you're joking me. He thought that when you tell somebody their cooking is quite good, it's like a real compliment. It means that it tastes really, really good. And he was so embarrassed. He'd gone for months telling people that their cooking was quite good. We were laughing so hard about this. I remember telling Mum about it. She thought it was so cute and so funny. I thought it was adorable, but he was so embarrassed. So from then on, when he was invited for a meal in New Zealand, he would tell them that tasted delicious instead of that was quite good. So, you know, lessons learned. So anyway, guys, that's all I've got for this video. I've got so many more embarrassing, funny stories about Rob when he was in New Zealand. I've probably got even more stories about me when I came to Germany. But I hope you found this amusing. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed it, then don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. I would love you to subscribe to my channel. Feel free to follow me on Instagram, and I will see you again really soon. Bye!